countries in the world, the decline of the Cold War and the rise of competitiveness shifted the dominant image of international relations from a military to an economic idiom or framework. In the first instance, the rise of competitiveness has been experienced as a problem of internationalization, a problem where differences within Europe have become less important than differences between Europe and the United States, between Europe and the Pacific Rim. For France, the question becomes, how can the country, how can France be a contributing, indeed leading member of the European Union while also preserving its autonomy and self-image as a leader in human progress? One reaction to the challenge of competitiveness that relates to engineering education was to facilitate a greater commitment to research that might have practical benefits. Most research was concentrated in universities, in government laboratories, but the best students were in the elite engineering schools. One reason why the École Polytechnique was moved from downtown Paris into the suburbs was to make it possible for the students there to work in university research labs nearby. More recently, the challenge to France carries the label globalization. In France, globalization is widely read as Americanization, or a somewhat less than rational shift of emphasis to a private economy built on low-cost mass use. This raises huge issues across the country. How can a system so thoroughly committed to centralized state operations adjust to the pressure to privatize? In engineering education specifically, one finds a greatly expanded system of cooperative relations with companies. Internships, for example, were first established because companies claimed that their students were too abstract and the studies were too abstract. And they needed to prepare future engineers for the workplace. Internships are now offered in all schools, and at least one internship is mandatory in 90% of the schools. But note that the whole system was set up as a state mandate. Also, a number of new educational paths have emerged for engineers built around industry. For example, one new accredited engineering degree consists of the baccalaureate plus 5 years, roughly, as other degrees. But it stands out, not only because it doesn't require the concours, but because students receive only 3 years of academic training, and 2 years of their training takes place within companies. In these cases, training may actually occur through an apprenticeship structure under the joint leadership of an advisor and a faculty member, industry advisor and faculty member, with specialized programs tailored to the needs of the companies. But the biggest question yet to be answered for French engineers in France generally concerns the idea of progress. What will it mean for state engineers if the metric of progress shifts from an idea of increasing social order and advancement toward an eventual state of perfection to a metric built around increasing standards of living and comfort, a metric focused on improving over the past? Will French engineers working in an increasingly international environment somehow feel they have to give up being French? Having now completed this module, you are now able to address these sorts of questions. You can put these sorts of questions to those French engineers that you encounter on the job, knowing that their answers will very likely vary depending upon how they're plotting their careers in the dual hierarchy of engineering education and engineering work. Thanks very much for your time and effort.